Hello and welcome to Politically Incorrect Knitters. My name is Ann Pinkava, joined as always by the lovely Deplorable Knitter. And today we have an extra special guest, the famous artist Birdy Rose.
Hello. You all right?
Hi. Thanks for joining us today.
That's all right.
We're very excited.
I've been excited as well. I listened to one of your YouTube videos. I only listened to one because I'm a busy girl. Okay.
That's okay.
Busy woman. But yeah, I'm interested in what you guys do and what happened. And yeah, with the knitting community is fucking mental, isn't it?
The knitting community is mental. It really is.
Wasn't expecting that.
I know. It seems like it'd be full of nice, young, grandmotherly type people. And
no, these are thugs. Actual thugs.
But before we get into all the thugs, there are good people in the knitting community, and we are sponsored by one of them. That would be Chicken Lady Fiber Arts, and she has awesome yarn. And if you use our code PIK deprogrammed20, you can get 20% off her yarn. And look at what I have. This is one of her sets. It is called the Patriot Collection. She just put some new ones in her shop. I've had this since the first run, but you can get something awesome with her code. So make sure you check out Chicken Lady Fiber Arts.
Mm-hmm. And also she is coming out with her deprogrammed colorway to support our friend Carrie Smith. So same as the promo code PIK deprogrammed20. And she's also doing a banned book Christmas advent calendar that there's a pre-order open for. So go ahead and check her out.
Yes. Okay. So you go by Birdy Rose, all one word. Okay.
Yep.
Because I want to call you Birdy.
You can call me Birdie. That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. I'm not going to accuse you of misnaming me.
You're not going to have a meltdown if I use the wrong title.
I mean,
you?
I'll have a meltdown if there's anything in it for me. Like if I get attention for it, no, not really. I can't be bothered. Too much effort.
Figure out a Twitter campaign, and you're like, hey, maybe we should.
Maybe I can do a GoFundMe.
Oh, those Ko-Fi, coffee, whatever it is, send me money for my emotional pain.
Yeah, my emotional labor.
That's right.
It's all ridiculous. But I've only followed you for a short time, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of our people haven't heard of you yet. So please tell us a little bit about you, who you are.
I'm an artist. I'm an artist. I draw pictures and I paint stuff, and I suppose what I'm known for on the internet, I say known, I'm not really known. But
of course you are. You're the famous artist.
Well, yes, okay, I'm the famous artist. That is real. I established myself as the famous artist. That's how I identify. So you have to respect that.
And by J.K. Rowling, give yourself a bit of credit.
Oh, yeah. That happened too. I can't remember when, but yes. And I draw pictures. I've been drawing a lot of pictures of women that I like, and not just women, there are some men as well that are all right. And a lot of them are being incredibly brave and feisty about what's happening with women, the erasure of women in language and maybe even legal terms as well in a lot of countries. And that, I mean, I was in a little bit of hot water before that anyway, because I don't believe that men are women, but I don't have to believe it. It's a wacky thing to believe, but I got in hot water for drawing pictures of women, women like Magdalene Burns, J.K. Rowling, quite a few women. I think I did one a day for quite a while because there was not much else to do in lockdowns. So I was just drawing pictures. But yeah, that sort of catapulted me into getting proper cancelled the second time, because I got cancelled before then a little bit, but it was kind of a weird situation with someone that knew me that decided to make up some lies about me, and then lots of people were like, well, yeah, that sounds about right because she's a bit transphobia or whatever, she doesn't believe men are women. And then when I started drawing the pictures, I suppose what it done is it proved to everyone that I'm a bigot. So if that makes sense, it kind of proved the point.
But so the reason that everybody decided to hate you though is because you don't align with the trans agenda.
Well, that's the
That's pretty much
story.
it?
So I think what happened with a lot of people is that some of it is quite personal. Some of it is people that I was friends with, then I wasn't friends with them. And, you know, they're all people that have been on the scene. We're on, my partner's a musician, I'm an artist, it's music art scene, creative scene and all that shit. And
which is pretty interesting. I mean, because we have our own issues in the knitting world, but it's like these are the nice places. These are the artists.
no, the artists are the fucking
nasty.
nutters. And we've always known the artists are the nutters, but we thought they were fluffy nutters like Care Bears, but they're not. They're mental nutters, like for real mental nutters. And I don't mean that in a sort of derogatory way to anyone who's mental, because a lot of mental people are lovely, but these ones aren't. That's like, but yeah, it is the people that are, they, in my version of things is that they didn't like it when we stepped away from them. So there's been a campaign against me from that point onwards, and that was fucking years ago. But what happened was when I started drawing these women and I started doing art about what's happening with cancel culture and all that, they used that as a weapon to try and internet murder me with, if that makes sense. That was the weapon. They've used it against me to prove to other people who otherwise thought I was lovely that I'm not lovely and I'm not an artist you should be supporting and I'm not a good person and all this shit. I think it's weird, but then I should have known, right? Because you get a lot of creative people, and I said that artists are mental, but I've been tongue-in-cheek. A lot of creative people pride themselves on being the outsiders and being the weirdos and being the freaks and all this shit. So I don't know, maybe I should have expected that there would be a certain amount of conformity and purity in those circles.
Yeah.
That you get that in kind of hipster circles too. That's like, oh, we're all very different, just like everybody else. And suddenly they look and they talk alike and everything. And you're like, wait, hang on, we were supposed to be separate here. We were supposed to be unique. No, it didn't happen.
I think it's probably quite a deep-rooted need to fit in with each other and to be part of a group or part of a tribe. And the way to fit in and the way to make people like you is to conform. It's something we've all learned to some extent. And the people who genuinely don't conform are always going to be weirdos and outsiders like us, whether we like it or not.
Has this canceling affected your work? Not your work, but your business side of your work? Like,
yeah, it turned everything upside down, because I was doing all right as an artist. I painted pictures and I sold them at gigs and stuff like that, and I sold them online. And when this person, the initial cancellation, when this person said that what had happened was this person accused me of beating them up at a festival, and I hadn't been anywhere near that person all weekend and not friends with that person anymore. I've got no reason to interact with them. So this person claimed that I beat them up. Nobody asked me or came to me or anything. I was the last person to find out. And that greatly affected me, because all of a sudden nobody wanted anything to do with me anymore. Then I find out afterwards that not just this person, but other people that we used to be friends with have been sort of like trying to damage my character and my reputation behind our backs. And I've even recently found out that it goes as far back as when we were still friends with them. So they were going behind our backs and telling people that I'm this and I'm that, and I'm a horrible person, I'm a Nazi, or I'm a bigot, or whatever. I've been radicalized on the internet. But I've never been untruthful about the fact that I don't believe men are women. I was a lot more sort of willing to be sort of like, hey, live and let people do what they want. If they want to be a weirdo, they can be a weirdo. A lot more along those lines before I realised what it actually meant. But I've never said that I believe men can become women. So I've never been untruthful about it. So I think it started off as a personal thing, an attack on me, and it's turned into this bigger thing where other people get to join in and tell me what an awful person I am, that I shouldn't be putting my art anywhere. The police need to be called. I should be prosecuted. I shouldn't be allowed to host my art locally in galleries or whatever. The art community around here, the art community, whoever they are, have decided that something needs to be done about me and that they need to get together and take action against me and shit like that. That has all snowballed from this very personal thing that happened years ago, if that makes sense. So I don't know if that is a typical story or not. I don't know if that usually happens. What I've seen from other people's cancellations is it starts with one person and one complaint, and then it turns into a mob. But that's because we've got the internet and you can recruit people online very easily, especially during lockdown. You can lie to people easily online. You don't have to look anyone in the eye. You don't have to answer questions face to face and have holes picked in your stories. You don't have to do any of that shit. You don't even have to remember your lies because Facebook, Twitter, Instagram will remember for you. So
yeah, and it's so much easier to load on a person when you're behind your computer screen because they're nobody to you. They're just a person out in the ether. But so your big thing is about the trans men becoming women. Are you conservative? Are you more on the liberal side? Is that
I don't know.
Like,
I don't know. I used to be left wing, and I would say now, I wouldn't have said it before, but I would say now I'm quite radical on the left. But I don't know where I am anymore. I think the way I will vote from now on is to vote for the thing that makes sense to me. Although my bar has come down. It's very low now. I'm not voting for policies that I think are great. I'm voting for whoever can tell me what a woman is. You got my vote.
And that's a lot of politicians that can't right now. I think it was Keir Starmer who was asked, and people throughout the Australian Parliament is like, simple question. And our own new Supreme Court nominee, that what is a woman is just something that people flub on.
So whoever can tell me that, I'll vote for them.
Isn't it sad that that's what this world is coming to, that's the standard? You can say this person is a woman.
Well, I'm wondering about that because, like, I used to vote left wing because I believed on the left, Labour Party, they were all about working class people like me, and that, you know, they were about the healthcare and education and things like that. And I don't think I'm voting that way anymore. I'm voting for whoever's got the guts to speak up for what's right and what is real, and that's it. Mm-hmm. So if I disagree with your policies, maybe I'll go locally to my MPs and disagree with them. But in terms of a party, I'm voting for whoever's going to speak the truth. That's my low bar at the moment.
Yeah, it's just crazy that that's what it's come to. It's just like, okay, say what a woman is, and that's how I'm going to vote. Like, probably a couple of years ago, you never would have thought you would even utter those words, and now
it's disappointing.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say my big thing is that men are not women. I just keep saying that because it's one of the main contentions with the issue of what is a woman.
After all, with this discussion of what is a woman, would you like to give a definition?
Well, it's an adult human female.
Whoa!
Isn't that amazing? It's, yeah, even when our new Supreme Court justice was on the being questioned, she said, well, I'm not a biologist. I didn't know you had to be a biologist to know that stuff. I mean, come on. It's just,
that's mad.
So in summary, you tick somebody off by saying that men are not women, and then they canceled you. And then you said,
I didn't even say that back then.
Oh, okay.
One of the main things that got me in trouble, there's a few things that happened at once. I got diagnosed with PCOS, which is polycystic ovary syndrome, and I, back then, being the good lefty that I am, went on Facebook and told everyone, because that's what you do, you tell everybody everything. But I had good intentions, so I wrote, this is for women and girls. These are the symptoms to look for. This is how you push for the doctor to investigate, because it took me like 7 years to get my diagnosis, and it shouldn't be taking that long. I knew what I had, but the doctors weren't taking me seriously enough to give me the investigations that I needed. I was going around doing a lot of things I didn't need to be doing to get this diagnosis, when really in the end it only took 10 seconds of an internal exam for them to see on the screen, like when they did a scan, that I had polycystic ovaries, that I had cysts on my ovaries. They were like, yeah, that's it. But I wrote a status about it and about what to look out for. And then there's this man that came onto the status, and he kicked off because I didn't mention trans women. I didn't address trans women in this status. And I said, well, I'm not being funny, but you have to be female to be at risk of developing an ovary disease, or, you know, this specific thing that does affect your female reproductive system. And he went absolutely ballistic. He weren't having any of it. Basically, in the comment section, started interrogating me on whether or not I would accept the identity of these hypothetical friends that may or may not be real of his. Would I refer to his friend as a woman? Would I accept their identity? And I was like, I don't even know these people. I don't owe you an answer on these things. And of course, I'm not going to pretend that someone is something they're not just to make you feel better. That's weird. So it started there, because he started, you know, that's the first time I got called a Nazi and a TERF and a bigot and a white supremacist. And I got it all in one go. It didn't just give me one label, all of it, bang. And I think a lot of people in my circles saw that, and that's when people started thinking that I might be a bit of a nasty bastard or something. And then, but before that, I'd already stepped away from these people that went after me later on. So I'd already not had any contact with them, blocked them all on social media. There's no reason for anyone to be taking umbrage with what I'm doing or what I believe or don't believe in and all that. There's no reason. So I think what it comes down to in a lot of these cases is just people, certain personality types that like bullying people, and that's that. So that has started it off. But a lot of the shit I get online, like, I don't get a lot of shit, to be honest. I get a bit on Twitter, and I just block them because they've all got anime pictures and I just can't take it seriously. So, and I'm also scared that it's a child. Like, what if this is a 13-year-old and I'm interacting with them? So I just block them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's something that kind of makes me wonder too, that, you know, you said that these people disliked you beforehand. It's like, how strong were they on the trans activism issue before they started going after you too? If they dislike you specifically, or if that was just kind of a convenient thing to grab at.
It was a convenient thing, but interestingly, a lot of the people involved now identify as a member of the queer flag rainbow. So, and that's been a recent development over the last few years. So, and I think what it is as well, on the art and music scene, there's a lot of performative sort of pretending that you feel strongly about something because of the whole allyship thing. And you have to be an ally of the LGBTQIA plus whatever to be a good person on the art scene. And I think that ties into being on the left as well, because I think a lot of artists naturally gravitate to the left politically, and then they naturally gravitate to these sort of virtue signaling do-gooder type things. I think it just is. I think a lot of people mean well, and then they don't.
You said earlier that you know, a lot of the creatives are on the outside, and I think that's what happens, is that we're in this group and we never really fit in, or and so you want to bring everybody in with you, and they think that the best way to do it is by like shouting at people who don't agree with them, which makes no sense to me. And then like you know, putting up their rainbow flag
if you
on
want
their
someone
media.
if you want someone to change their mind and believe in what you believe in, all you have to do is dedicatedly ruin their life.
Mm-hmm.
And then hopefully one day they will agree with you. Yeah.
And if they don't, make sure that you label them. Like you said, in that one post, you got labeled everything that can
all
happen.
the labels.
That's what they do. They just throw them at you and see what sticks, because
And that's kind of the tactic that's been used against me. So all of the stuff that's been said about me over the years, it has been a case of just to chuck whatever. She beat me up, she did this, she did that, and whatever sticks, great. I don't care what doesn't stick as long as something sticks. And the transphobe thing has stuck, and I think it's because they used my pictures of people like Magdalene Burns and J.K. Rowling as proof, if that makes sense.
Well, I mean, the fact that you even made a picture of J.K. Rowling is just the worst thing you could have done, because we all know that she is Satan incarnate. So, I mean.
Right, which is, another funny thing to me, because it's like, well, what's the proof against J.K. Rowling? Her one tweet, which you have an art piece of, it's like, which is, hey man, do whatever you want. Just don't say that men are women.
Well, that's the thing. There's never any proof, is there? I mean, even in my case, with the people going after me, none of them ever provide the evidence of what I've apparently done. Like, they'll tell people that my art is a hate campaign. Well, you can go and look at my website, and I don't think you're going to find a hate campaign there. And I don't know who this hate campaign is aimed at, because I don't talk about trans people in my art. So you can say it's a hate campaign against trans people all you want.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the things that I thought was interesting, that you have a blog post on your website talking about that you have the love wins hashtag, which is always so nice. Everyone's like, oh, love wins, love is love, and all of these things. And it's like, you are not nice people.
Yeah, well, that came from when the online campaign, the online part of the campaign, because before that it was word of mouth. And I'm sorry, I've been a bit convoluted about it. I think convoluted is the word, but the timeline's long and the details are many. So I just like to try and cut it down to shortness. But on the blog, that was written after the online campaign against me started, and I thought it was shocking that people were going after me so viciously and hashtagging it with love wins, be kind, that the goodies will always win in the end, that sort of thing. And I was like, you're being so fucking nasty, and you've got the audacity to announce that you're the good person in this and that you just want peace and love, but you're going after somebody you haven't seen or spoken to in 5 years. Mental.
Right. And going through your post, just kind of shocked too, because one of the posts that just blew me away, it was, just a quick reminder that if anyone feels they have been a victim of hate crime, report it. I, along with friends at Transpire, are Essex Police accredited hate crime ambassadors supporting all the community. And don't you feel supported?
Yeah, I don't feel supported at all.
Hate crime ambassadors? What sort of 1984 nonsense is this?
Well, that person recently wrote online that they can't believe, and I'm saying they because I don't want people coming after me for talking about someone, but they can't believe. Sure you
don't misgender them.
Yeah, that too. Well, they can't believe that I haven't been prosecuted yet. And I'm like, prosecuted for what? Drawing pictures? I mean, come on then, take me to court for drawing pictures, because I'd fucking love to see what the outcome of that is, because it would set a precedent for artists in their freedom of speech and freedom of expression. Because if an artist draws a picture and a member of the public doesn't like it and they can get taken to court for it, that I don't think that's ever happened before. I don't think that's ever been a thing, and I don't want it to be a thing for other artists. I don't want artists to be dragged through the courts and prosecuted for drawing a picture that some random dickhead has decided they don't like.
Right. And
sorry for ranting. I went to the gym today and it was a mega one, so I feel a bit sweary and a bit ranty. I apologise.
No, it's okay. Aren't there in the UK? There's laws about like what you can say about people, right? More so, aren't there like hate speech?
Yeah, we've got the hate speech laws, which I think we should chuck them in the bin. That's a load of rubbish. I mean, I think it probably started out with good intentions, right? So you've probably got people that are victims of actual hate crimes, like actual sort of like racially motivated, deplorable crimes that do happen. And that is a thing. But at the same time, I don't understand why we have to have a label on a crime to say that it is a special crime that's worse than all the other crimes.
Exactly.
If it's a crime, it's a crime.
Right. It's like,
this
well,
is a
this
crime
murder was a
extra.
hate crime. It's like, that's murder, which is already illegal.
But also the problem with hate crime legislation as well is that you're assuming intent. And how do, like me, for example, these people are assuming and saying that the only reason I'm making this art is because I hate trans people and I want them dead. Not because I think the women I've drawn are fucking brilliant, and the blokes I've drawn are really interesting as well, and they're all people that have had something to say that has resonated with me. Whether I agree with them on everything or not, I couldn't possibly know, because it takes a lifetime to get to know somebody that well. So yeah, I think the problem with the hate speech stuff is that when you're assuming intent and you apply that motive to somebody, how do they disprove it? I mean, how do I prove that I didn't draw all of my pictures because I hate trans people? I can say I didn't, and I know I didn't, and I'm the only person on this planet that knows why I did these pictures. But these other people over here are saying that this is the reason I did it, and they know that for a fact. And in the court of law in the UK, as far as I'm aware, I might be corrected on this in the comments later on, but when it comes to a hate crime, it's up to the victim what your motive is. It's determined by the victim. So if this guy takes me to court, or anyone, or this woman takes me to court, or this they, them takes me to court, or the pixie devil person, whatever they identify as, takes me to court and says that I drew this picture of J.K. Rowling because I want that person dead, as far as I'm aware, I could be wrong, in the courts, that would be taken on their word. It wouldn't be, I wouldn't be able to say that I didn't, that's not the reason I drew it. That wouldn't be taken into consideration. I could be wrong, but that's the way I read into it. And I think that just made me really turn against hate speech legislation. I was like, do you know what? I don't agree that someone who claims to be a victim should be able to apply the intent and use that against you when they have no idea why you did what you did.
Right. That's it's one of those slippery slope things. It probably did start with good intentions for real true reasons, but like all those things that you said you were called, I've been called. The one that sticks with me most is racist, though, because I supported President Trump, and since he was a white supremacist, I am a white supremacist. But
do you know what? The bar is low for being called a racist as well, though, because I got called a racist when I said that men can't develop PCOS. So that went out the window. That went out the window with everything else. I don't care if I get called those things because it don't mean anything.
Right. They've taken the meaning away from words, and you can't. But what you were saying is, like, if they say you meant harm to them because of this, you can't change it. And when they call you racist, transphobe, you can say whatever you want, but it's not something you can argue against, which is why I think it's so popular to use, because you can't, I can tell you all day long I'm not racist. If you believe I'm racist, you're going to believe I'm racist, and that's the end of the story.
Right. And it's not an equal standard either. I mean, kind of traditionally by the law, as far as I know, but sort of more old-fashioned laws, that it's like, okay, so murder, you get a premeditated or a not, that if it's you know that those two people didn't like each other, all right, sure, that is a different category than if they were fighting and one of them died. And that intent, you can't look into somebody's heart. You can't look in and know. It's like, okay, so we have to judge you by what happened, which is free and fair, and all that we can do as human beings, basically. We can impute any motive we want to anyone, but the law kind of has to be blind in this way as it looks out on things. And yeah, the hate crime laws are just outrageous. And also,
I think so.
The Free Speech Union too. I know you're a member.
Yeah, I love the Free Speech Union. They've been really useful to me anyway. So, and before this, I didn't really give a shit about free speech in the way that I do now. And I think it's interesting, actually, that on the art and music scenes, people don't care about free speech, because as an artist, you should be championing that more than anyone else.
Right.
You know.
And it's, legally, it's the most important thing, connected to what you do. So it's really surprising. And
yeah, that's why I said, like, if anyone does take me to court for drawing pictures, I think that would be really interesting, because I mean, I don't know what you can prosecute me for. I mean, really, is it a crime to draw J.K. Rowling? I mean, is that where we're going? We're going to make that a hate crime now? I don't know. I just think it'd be interesting, but I'm glad I wasn't taken to court, and I haven't been taken to court. There was talk of suing me for hate crimes, but the people involved never took that up. So.
Right. And another one of the kind of, I guess not accusations, but, you said that you're an artist, but you're also connected with the music community, that somebody was writing a song about you and getting volunteers to yell snake, snake, snake at the end. And then they're like, oh, well, I guess we won't publish it. That might become a problem.
I think what happened there was maybe these people got given a heads up that this is legally shaky ground to be on, because if you make a song about me and you refer to me in a way that is obvious to everyone else, or you use my name, which I think these people did, that is against the law. That's defamation. And I could prove that very easily in a court of law if I had the song.
Right.
Unfortunately, everybody is a coward and nobody gave the song up. So, but I know that a lot of people joined in and participated in that. And that in itself is like, I don't know what the law is on this, but it must be some form of incitement.
Yeah, because I mean, you've had threats of violence against you too. So it again, it's also weird, because it is very much a yay, let's, get excited and jump up and down and hate.
Yeah, let's kick her head in. That'll be fun. And we're the good people.
Gosh.
They're always the good ones that are doing it. So you've been canceled twice now. So the first time somebody said you beat them up and a whole bunch of things happened. And then more recently, has something happened, or?
No, more recently, my partner had a gig cancelled because another musician who wasn't on the bill for the gig, this was for a festival, another musician who wasn't going to be playing the festival complained that if they were ever offered a slot at this festival, they wouldn't take it, because they would never share a stage with my partner, because he's got a girlfriend who has opinions that upsets other people. So the organizer of the festival cancelled my partner's gig.
But that's the dumbest reason.
So I like all the steps. No, I like all the steps there are. So he's got a girlfriend or fiance. We're actually engaged. So he's got a fiance who has opinions that upsets not me, other people. And therefore he shouldn't play this festival that I'm not going to.
Yeah, and I'm not invited to play at, but if I ever were invited to play, like that's some mental gymnastics right there to get to the end, for real.
Yeah, and the fact that he had his gig cancelled from it almost immediately, the level of cowardice was, I shouldn't say it was astonishing to me, because I expect it by now, but I was quite stunned. At the same time, I didn't name the festival. I don't want to give the guy too much of a hard time. I think that people are genuinely scared, and I don't think they should be. And I did say to him, you've made a mistake, because now you've given them power over you, and you will be at their mercy forever. They're never going to let that power go. You should have stood your ground or ignored it.
Yep. It's the first rule of cancel culture is never apologize, because once you do, no matter what your apology is, it's wrong. And then they can hold it over you forever. And then they're watching everything you do. You just can't even, you have to say what you mean.
Do you think it's sad that we're getting into a society where apologizing is a bad thing? Because if you apologize, you're going to be at the mercy of these arseholes forever. But I think it's not a good thing that we're going that way, because I think when an apology is required and when it's necessary and appropriate and it is sincerely done, it's important. I think it's important for people to apologise to each other when they've genuinely done something wrong, not to demand apologies from people. I don't think that's right. I think it should be a self-elected thing, and it should be, I've reflected on what I've done and I feel remorseful. I'm going to apologise to this person or this group of people or whatever. But I think it's sad that we're in a society that A, demands apologies from people, unnecessarily so, and B, people like us are going down the mindset of we should never apologize.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird, like there's very low bars and very high bars that you have to, there's such a low bar for needing to apologize, but when you apologize, you have to make it big. That
this is religious stuff though, because I remember this in Sunday school when we got told, I'm getting all finger waggy now, we got told that the way I got taught in Sunday school when I was little was that you're born a sinner and you're a sinner forever. And you have to repent to God. So you pray and you say sorry and you repent your sins from before you were born, from before any of you were born, and before you even existed. And
they go back far in your church. That's weird.
Well, I stopped going there when I was a teenager. I discovered some music and some weed and I stopped going. But I don't do that no more, though. I'm a bit too paranoid for that. But what I learned was that you can repent for the rest of your life and it's not up to you whether you go to heaven, and it doesn't necessarily matter whether you've repented all your life or not, because God is omniscient, I think that's the word, and he knows everything and always has done, and everything's always been predetermined. And I remember being little, like 7 years old, thinking, well, if everything's predetermined, let's say, for example, before I even existed, God already decided that I'm going to go to hell. What's the fucking point in me wasting my time repenting and reading all this stuff? Might as well go and do all the hell things.
Right. That's harsh.
Because I remember thinking that when I was a kid, but that's how I feel about this culture.
No, I totally get that. I mean, I'm a Christian, DK's Christian, but very much a free will. Yes, you ask for forgiveness, but God accepts your apology. It's amazing. It's not like cancel culture at all, because he'll actually forgive you. But you're right. It is that harshness of you are predetermined. And we get this, with you're predetermined, a racist, you are predetermined.
It's the assuming intent, right?
Right, with assuming intent. And it's like, it's not you did something wrong, you apologize, you're forgiven. No, you are, like you said, a sinner forever, never redeemed. And
so what's the point in apologizing? There's no point. Just like that, I thought when I was little, no point in repenting. I'm not trying to shit on your God or anything. I think actually I've gone around in circles with this. I've come around to thinking, actually, I think religion is good if people don't become ideological and crazy about it. So I think there's a lot of grounding tools and lessons in it that we're missing in society right now that people need.
It's kind of like cancel culture. Too much of a thing, no matter what it is, can be too much. And the apologies, you apologize, you don't do it right, it's wrong, you have to do it again. That's not how apologies work. In my opinion, that's not how God works. And the people who tell you it is, I feel bad that that's how they operate. And I don't think those of us who have been canceled shouldn't apologize, but I think that when you're being accused of something you haven't done, that's when you don't apologize.
I think what people, oh, sorry, I interrupted. I think what people don't realize is that you can't prove you didn't do something.
Mm-hmm.
You just can't. There's no way out of that. Like, I couldn't prove that I didn't beat somebody up. I've got people that were around me all weekend that could testify on my behalf. But do I have proof that I didn't beat somebody up? No. Mm-hmm. Do I have proof? Does anyone have proof that I did beat somebody up? No, there's absolutely no proof whatsoever. So it's my word against somebody else's word. And this other person's word was taken seriously because they identify as trans. So it's kind of like saying I'm a man of the church. Then all of a sudden your word's taken seriously, and people exploit that.
Right. And I mean, it's sort of the calling out you could say institutions of virtue, no matter what they be, if they're hypocritical or they're just plain bad, just call it out. But yeah, we have, well, I'm trans and that is a higher tick up, I have this disability or mental health or whatever. And I mean, like, look, if this is who you are, that's who you are, good for you. But to use it as like an uptick in points of, I'm sorry, my card rate's higher than your card, so I get higher on the table.
But they're hypocritical with these cards as well, right? Because I'm disabled and my disability has never been taken into consideration. And really, compared to a lot of these people, I trump them in terms of all my cards that I could use, But yeah, it's crazy because it doesn't seem to matter to them.
It doesn't. But that's also the difference between the people who are canceling and the cancelees. You don't want people to judge you based on your ability or disability, or you want them to judge you based on your work and what you do and how you act. And you're not going to be like, oh, well, it's not my fault because I have whatever. And
yeah,
that's the difference.
Well, that's been one of the accusations, actually. I thought it was really interesting because there's a few fake accounts on Twitter that stalk me. And one of them said something like, she uses her disability as an excuse to be disgusting, to hate trans people, to be disgusting and hateful towards trans people. And I was like, I've never done that. I've never said I'm disabled and that's why I hate trans people. That's never been a thing. My art isn't about trans people. It's about women and what's going on in our culture and the downfall of our culture if we allow it to continue. That's what my art's about at the moment. I mean, I do art about other stuff as well, but
yeah. I was about to say that that you have a series. I was looking through your store today and series of kind of puns, hate speech, and
they're so stupid, aren't they?
I was just laughing at them because it is.
Yeah, I laugh at them. I think it's stupid, but yeah, I think some of it is me just having a laugh as well, like the hate speech one, because I think even people that have been cancelled take things very seriously, and I think it's because it does turn your life upside down. It does hurt you in a significant way that's very hard to bounce back from.
Well, you feel like you're under attack. It makes sense to kind of like curl up a bit.
Yeah, but I think ironically, I think humor is a good way out, and we know all the comedians are getting cancelled and all that shit as well, so you're not allowed to laugh at anything anymore. Hey, you stop having fun.
Right.
Exactly.
We're in a miserable crowd.
You have one that's just jokes are funny, and I love it.
Oh, I got that from who said jokes are funny? I think it was the guy that was at the protest after Dave Chappelle's Netflix special.
Yes, he was holding up a sign and they started saying jokes are funny.
And then I put those lemons on it because life gives you lemons, and it just made me chuckle. I don't know. It just I don't know why my brain does that.
Yeah, I don't know. I deal with a lot of the people who come after me with humor, and I find that they don't know what to do. And so that it's like they're confused. Like they don't, yeah. I'm a very sarcastic person. And when I say something, they're like crickets, like they don't even know how to respond. And I think that that's something that we need to hang on to is the humor. It's kind of funny.
I had some random anime people on Twitter come after me, and that happens every now and again. And one of them said, because in my Twitter bio it says I drink a lot of tea, okay, and one of them said I drink a lot of coffee, okay, and because I hadn't looked at my social media that day, I didn't realize I was being piled on or anything. I didn't know, so I just clicked on this one comment and I was like, coffee, okay, well, what coffee do you drink or whatever. I was just like talking about tea and coffee like I do to everybody else, and this person didn't know what to say to me. And then I clocked on a little while later that I realized that, oh, this person's trying to mock me, oh, they're trying to hurt my oh, right, okay, that didn't work.
Like, oh, I thought we were just talking like people, my bad.
Yeah. Oops. I didn't know that was meant to hurt me.
No, it's the stuff that they try to do too is really kind of ridiculous sometimes. Like they'll say stuff about my Trump patterns. Yes, I made a lot of Trump patterns when he was in office. It was kind of my thing. The name Deplorable Knitter, kind of my Trump thing and whatever. Like, I don't know. They think that they're so smart and they're going to hurt your feelings. And I just don't care. I have other things going on.
But that's why you're evil, because you have no feelings.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad I know that now. My bad.
So are you in America then? And are you in America?
We're both in America.
Okay, so why did I think this was an Australian show?
I think the interview I sent you was Mari, and she was in.
I assumed that you were all in New Zealand and Australia for some reason. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Now your fans are gonna hate me. They're gonna be like, "Why did you get this arsehole on your show? She doesn't even know where you're from."
That's okay. It hasn't been like you're like slipping in Aussie jokes like, yes, Marmite. And we're like, what?
I don't know any Aussie jokes.
No, our fans like it that we bring them different people because unlike some of the left, they'd like to hear from different people in different areas about different things that are happening. So it's all good.
Well, yeah, do you know what? Listening to different people has changed my life. And if you'd have told me when I was like 15 that listening to different people would change my life, I'd be like, well, yeah, listening to different people, you've got to get as many views as you can. But somewhere between the ages of, 20 and 30, when the internet really boomed with social media, I lost sight of that. And I think a lot of people have. And I think, you get in your echo chamber and all that stuff online and you lose sight of, you get a bit us and them as well, especially on the art and music scene. If you're on the crusty grassroots end of like punky end of the music scene and everybody's a lefty, you get into that and you forget that there's other views out there and that they are worthy of thought and consideration. And so coming back round to being a normal person that listens to everybody really changed my life, and it's been for the better. It actually got me through being cancelled, to be honest.
That's really interesting. I think that most of the problems we have today are because people only listen to people that agree with them. And the fact that, and then people who are intimidated by being called a racist, a transphobe or whatever, then they don't know what to do. And then that just makes them angrier because you don't agree with me and you're not mad that I'm calling you these names. And now, something's got to give. People need to.
I don't know what it's going to take because I think I'm trying not to be pessimistic, but I don't know what it's going to take because we are deeper in social media than we've ever been before. And it is a part of our daily lives now. And then we've got this metaverse coming in soon as well. And that is going to make it worse because then people are going to virtually live their lives. Mm-hmm. That is going to be crazy. I'm scared of it.
I know. And I mean, there's on the internet, there's so many forms of specialized media. I mean, not to be old fashioned here, but if you only have, 3 television channels and one of them's a news channel and, there's the nightly news at 7 and that's it. And it's like, yeah, well, the nightly news guy is probably going to be biased anyways, but he's generally pretty straightforward because he knows that everybody listens and then they get mad if he was too biased. And everybody watches the same couple TV programs that they have common cultural things. And to some extent, it's wonderful that we can have all these very specialized interests, but, we become close with a very small segment of the population, which is also a huge problem. And, how many, we have throughout the pandemic and now where we get in these very political echo chambers that it's like, oh, so right now we kind of virtually live in our bubbles online, but what happens when you really can live in your virtual bubble that you can only...
Because I get scared of that because on Twitter, I think I cultivated a really comfortable little echo chamber for myself. And that I was like, enjoying it for a bit, especially when I got cancelled. I was like, this is great. Everybody agrees with me. Nobody's attacking me. This is brilliant. And now I'm getting a bit like, oh shit, nobody disagrees with me. This is terrible. I need more. But the problem we're having is that a lot of people are not up for polite disagreement and just accepting that you don't agree on something, but you're going to follow each other anyway because you both have other things that are valuable or interesting to bring to the table. It's always a war. It's always, you don't agree with me, therefore we're enemies. So it's very difficult to burst the bubble of that echo chamber, if that makes sense.
Right. And there's no like delineation of discourse too. It's like, you are awful and I hate you. It's not a, you know what, I don't agree with you on this issue. And you're talking to everybody. You're not talking to someone specifically. So to you specifically, I could say like, well, you know, I disagree with you on this issue, but you have to make a general statement all the time. You can't have context conversations.
Because you're essentially on a stage on social media and everybody else is your audience. It's such a weird thing. I wonder if it'll be like that in the metaverse as well.
I don't know. You mentioned the metaverse, and I know that they've been talking about it, but I have a husband that's not on social media, and I'm like, that's crap. I'm not involved in it. And so I kind of have forgotten about it. Like, I don't even, but people are going to be really into that. I don't know what's going on.
I'm scared because I can see a lot of things culturally getting worse, but I'm also excited by it as an artist. I think the metaverse as an artist is a great opportunity to do some wild things. So look out for that if I ever get tech savvy.
Well, I forget if I've said this before, but like a little while back, someone had a pair of virtual reality goggles and they're like, okay, you have to put these on. And I'm like, okay. So I'm, you know, looking stupid and have the thing. And I have the little handset and sitting there and it's like, this is really freaky. And he put me in the middle of a video game where you're standing on water and it's like a horizon. And he's like, oh, this is terrifying. And he's like, I'm like, okay, so I don't want to play this game. So I booted back to the lobby, and the lobby was you're standing in your virtual reality futuristic apartment. And I'm like, this was scarier than the rest of it for me because I'm looking around and I'm like, oh, so this is my, you know, it kind of looked like Blade Runner, but, you know, it's sunset and I have my Chinese poster for some reason. And I'm looking around and I'm like, okay, I can tell right now that some portions of this are not very well rendered, that, you know, that some of the furniture is clunky and things are forward. I'm like, but hang on, I've seen other video games where they're rendered well, you know, very quickly. I mean, I'm going to be living in my own virtual apartment, and my virtual apartment is going to be pretty. And if my regular apartment isn't pretty, I only have to stand that for as long as I can put the goggles on. You know?
Or unless we end up in a society where, depending on your ideological allegiances and how you're determined to be as a person, whether you're a goodie or a baddie, you may not be able to access the luxury apartment in the metaverse.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where everybody's living, right? You could end up in the metaverse prison for hate speech. That's where my brain goes. And I don't really want to bring the tone down. So I apologize for being quite scary about it.
No, it's totally true. And right now, I mean, you know, people talk about getting canceled online and, you know, well, I mean, you've had physical threats, but a lot of the threats, well, they're not really hurting your business. It's just what people say about you. It's like, no, if this is where people are meeting each other, this is where people are networking, this is where you're making friends, this is where you're climbing the social ladder. If that's all online and that's broken down for you, that is a problem. You know, it's,
yeah, that's a cyber exile, right? Because if you were exiled from society years ago, that would have meant death, like hundreds of years ago or whenever it was that people were exiled, and you would have just been, I don't know, left in the wild to die or survive, whatever happened. So I think that it is somewhat programmed in us. This is just a theory. I'm not a scientist or anything, but I think this is programmed in us to be scared of exile, to be scared of being kicked out of the tribe, and it's primitive, and that we are frightened of it because it means death. And that it's not much different when you're cyber exiled. You have that primitive fear, even though you know, like I know when all these people went after me online and when threats were made, I knew I wasn't dead. I wasn't left out in the wild to die. I can still go to the shops. I can still buy tea bags and make a cup of tea and come home and all that stuff. But it felt like death, if that makes sense. And overcoming being cancelled, which is still a process, feels like a rebirth. It's weird.
It is weird. But I think that it's a process that more people could benefit from, because you find out a lot about yourself and about who is important when you go through it. Because
Right.
you might be a designer or an artist with millions of followers, and then you get canceled, and then you find out who's actually there. And so, yeah, it sucks. But on the other hand, it's kind of I don't want to say it's a good thing, but you understand what I mean. It's not the end of the world, it seems.
No, and there are payoffs to it. So, like, okay, I'm going to say this tongue in cheek, but okay, your life is ruined, but at least you can say what you want.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't.
For some people, it's worth it.
Right. And I think a lot of times, like I don't know, that you kind of don't realize how valuable that is. That there's a lot of people who are like, whoa, I could never say that. And I'm like, well, I just did. So you could try though. It's fun.
Do you think as well, because I wish I was like a properly educated person. I don't wish that I went through academia. I'm really glad I didn't now. I used to think that I'd missed out, but I'm glad I didn't. But I wish I was educated, because I wonder if there is like a psychological reaction or even a physical harm to not saying what you think. Because I didn't read this book, I listened to it, and for some people that's not reading. So I read the Gulag Archipelago last year. That took me about a month to get through. I thought I was going to bash that out in a day. No way, that's a heavy book. And the one of the bits in it I remember him saying was about how the prisoners not being allowed to speak was one of the worst parts. And I thought that was really interesting, because I think speaking and saying your mind is really important. And I said earlier that I'm disabled. I was born with rubella syndrome, and that affected my ears and my heart. And so I'm deaf. And when I was little, I had some rubella thing going on with my throat, so I couldn't breathe or talk properly. So I relied on sign language. And even as a deaf person, signing is so important to be able to speak in that way. I think the deaf kids that can't speak, I remember them signing. And I remember even when I was little thinking, what would they do if there was no signing? There was no sign language. You can't hear and you can't speak. Like how do you communicate? And when you can speak and you can hear, but you can't speak, that is weird. Like, you can't speak because other people have made you feel like you can't speak. That is bizarre to me. I think maybe that's why I'm so gobby.
Well, you know the value of it.
Yeah, I ain't shut up since my operation when I was a kid. I had an operation to sort my throat out, and I couldn't speak for a while, and everything had to be liquefied, and I had to go to school like it as well. And some of the other kids were laughing at me and saying I'm a baby because I'm eating baby food. I tell you what, as soon as I got my voice back, I told them to fuck right off. But they understood that clear enough.
No, that's an interesting point, though. I think so many people are afraid to say what they want to, and it can't be healthy.
No.
And I know a lot of people, especially because of social media, who will have just gone away from it because they don't feel like they can say what they need to, and it's draining on them. It takes a lot out of them.
I bet it drives people crazy.
Yeah.
Well, and not to segue to COVID if you don't want to, but the psychological impact of masks and kids who can't see each other's face, and you can't have that connection, and you can't see, differences in expression and tone quality and everything.
Masks have been an absolute nightmare for me because I'm deaf, and so I rely heavily on lip reading people. And when I've been out, I've avoided when we had to wear masks and that, I avoided shops and stuff because I can't deal with having to try and communicate with somebody behind a glass and we're all wearing masks. It's ridiculous. Went to a post office once to drop off stickers and some guy got the ump in front of me because the woman behind the glass had been calling me for ages. Well, I don't know because you're all fucking wearing masks and I'm deaf. So I didn't say that to him because in England we're exceptionally polite, and I just nodded and went and did my post. But I did think to myself, fuck you, you're an arsehole. But I didn't say it. But the thing is, like, I get my partner to do my post now because I can't, even without the marks, I feel, I'm not trying to be dramatic about this, but I do feel affected by the fact that for 2 years everyone was wearing masks and I couldn't hear anyone. I don't like that, you know. But you can't complain about that on the internet because people go, well, it's better than being dead. And I'm like, well, yeah, it is better than being dead, but still, I'm not dead, so I have to deal with it, you know, and I'm allowed to say something about it.
Yeah, congratulations, I have to live with it now. And, you know, whatever you do, do not talk about microplastics. That came out this week. But
what's that about? Go on, tell me.
I haven't heard that either.
Oh, that was, I think I was.
Is that the microplastics? People were born with it in their body, aren't they? Like, is that where the plastic is everywhere and it's in us now?
Well, the microplastics are, well, a lot of people talk about it from an environmental issue, like when clothing is made, that, you know, you have polyester clothing and the microplastics run off in the water and that gets in the ecosystem. But apparently masks are a huge thing with microplastics too, that having this up by your face for a while is really harmful to your lungs.
Well, do you know what? That doesn't surprise me. I've had fucking loads of lung issues over the last 2 years. And,
and
I weren't a fan of wearing the mask.
No, I remember, I mean, kind of more at the beginning of the pandemic, there was a bit where, you know, I had to wear a mask for work. And I mean, it kind of, I don't know, it felt like I perpetually had a cold kind of going on already, but it was also a very physical limiting thing that I talked less when I wore a mask. And I mean, part of it was the difficulty in hearing each other. And then it was the, well, am I going to repeat myself or am I just going to stand here and be quiet and do whatever I do? And
that's the other side of the problem I have. Or am I going to ask them to repeat themselves 7 times or am I just going to nod? I'll just nod.
Just like, just eye contact.
Yeah, no, I'm like that. I did comply with the mask wearing when necessary. So like I avoided a lot of places because obviously I can't hear people. But if I needed to go to dentist or doctor or hospital, anything like that, yeah, I'll put a mask on because obviously there's like old people in there and people with flu or whatever. And so I'm quite compliant, but I didn't like it, if that makes sense. I didn't agree with it.
Yeah. No, the whole time, I live in New York State, and so we have a Democratic governor, and so we had a lot more mask rules than like where Ann lives. And the second time they implemented them, I stopped wearing my mask, and if people didn't let me into the store without it, I just didn't go in their store. But the one place I'm not that mad about wearing it is to the doctor's office. I have 2 kids. They're slimy. Kids are gross. So, okay, I get it. Wear a mask because like who wants to get that filth from the doctor anyway? But other than that, I think that's the only place I can say where I'm like, yeah, okay, hospital, doctor,
yeah, same here. I actually think I don't mind it, but like one of the things that drove me nuts about the whole COVID thing is it's the same as what drives me nuts about everything. It's people thinking that other people shouldn't be allowed to have a choice, that they can't be trusted to make a decision about their own body. That drives me nuts because like I was like vaccines, for example, I was happy to get vaccinated because I was born with rubella syndrome and I know that I could have serious implications if I get COVID, which I did get COVID, by the way, a couple of weeks ago and I was fine. So I'm lucky. I think I had the mild variant, so I'm really glad, but not glad that I got COVID, but glad that I overcame it, you know. But, somebody's gonna cut that out and use it to smear me for sure.
Oh, no.
I got vaccinated, but always from the start felt uncomfortable about telling other people they have to do it. It's just never sat right with me. I just don't understand, and I don't really get how that affects me if somebody else gets it or not. Like, I've been vaccinated. I've done the maximum of what I can do for myself. What you do doesn't really come into it.
Yeah, and that's the problem, is that we've lost the whole it's this idea that everybody has to do the same thing. No, we have lived for a bajillion years without people telling us what to do, and we're all fine. You get vaccinated if you want to. I don't get vaccinated. You know, my parents got boosted. It's all a personal opinion, and everybody should be allowed to do what they want to do. This whole making everybody do stuff is ridiculous.
Well, I would kind of go back to it's a moral judgment about a medical decision, you know, or it's a moral judgment about, you know, your ability to speak out on a certain issue, which is weird that you're like, well, medical decisions are just medical decisions. You know, we all have our own, we can all make our own choices, and we all have, you know, variety of factors and conditions that we may have to think about when going in for a medical procedure. But that, you know, some people can push it as a, you know, one size fits all policy, and, you know, other people don't, that it's a, I got this, so you must get this because it's right. And, you know, we both have the same moral standard, right? So you have to do it as well. It's been such a bizarre thing. And again, for a medical issue.
Yeah, I always thought medical issues were extremely personal and not something that I should be, or anyone should be, judged on, really.
Right.
That being said, I mean, there are a lot of contentious issues on other medical issues at the moment, isn't there? Or what is being defined as medical issues.
Right. Kind of coming back around to the, you know, beginning.
Yeah, I mean, but then again, that comes back around to definitions and stuff as well, because that has all been turned inside out.
Yep, words have no meaning anymore. That's the moral of the story. Words don't mean anything.
Nothing means anything. So if you get cancelled, don't worry, because it doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't. And honestly, if you get canceled, then you can just say what you want, and nobody. What are they going to do?
It's fine. It's fine. You
know.
can say what you want because it doesn't mean anything.
Yep. I had an issue a couple months ago, and my brother said to me, "Why are you worried? You've already been canceled. What are they going to do? Cancel you again?" And I was like, "Yeah, good point. Okay."
Cancel you some more. No, I think there is a freedom to it. I think once you've been cancelled and you've sort of come back to yourself, you do find yourself, and there is freedom to it, and there is a sense of, well, you can't do anything else to me now. Like, initially when I got cancelled, it did hurt me. It hurt me financially. It hurt me in my business. I went and got a job, and then eventually I started drawing women pictures. I lost that other job. I carried on with this, but all tied in quite well for some reason. And then I feel like I'm better as an artist now. Like, I have clearer ideas of what an artist can do and can't do. I don't think an artist really can't do anything unless it's actually illegal. But that's what we're facing, right? A lot of these people want what I'm doing to actually be legal.
Well, it's all very interesting. Yeah, I think that you're right about the whole, there's freedom to find yourself once you've been canceled. There's freedom to do whatever you want in this, which is awesome.
Here's the thing, like, before I got cancelled, if you want to call it that, sometimes I wonder what that word means, and then sometimes I'm like, no, I've definitely been cancelled. But before I got cancelled, I didn't really feel like I could freely listen to other opinions, because it felt like I might be judged as a bad person or something. Like when I was listening to Joe Rogan or Jordan Peterson, people like that, I was kind of like, oh, now that I'm listening to this is definitely, my life is about to go down the shitter if people find out I'm listening to this, and I don't have that feeling anymore.
Canadian Kermit the Frog, it's all over.
But I don't have that feeling anymore. I'll listen to anyone, and if I disagree with them, I disagree with them. But so what? There's loads of people I listen to that I used to disagree with. so much that I'm now starting to go, do you know what? I can see where that person's coming from, and that's fine.
You don't have to agree with everyone, but you know, being able to see somebody else's point of view or why they say things, it's important, and we've really lost it. We've really lost it nowadays with everybody being so PC. Thank you so much for joining us today.
And where can people find you?
Yeah.
Oh, the famous artist BirdyRose.com.
Okay.
Awesome. Why does that make you laugh? Because you're a famous
It
artist?
makes me laugh every time I say it, because I'm like, everybody calling me the famous artist.
But yeah, she has pictures and prints and t-shirts and stickers and all sorts of fun stuff.
I do indeed.
So make sure you check her out on the famous artist BirdyRose.com, and you can find Ann and I on Instagram, YouTube, and Rumble. Make sure you check out Chicken Lady Fiber Arts and use the code PIK DProgram20 to get 20% off your order at chickenladyfiberarts.com. And thanks for joining us this week, guys. We'll see you again.